everybody and welcome on this cloudy video, because again the sun is not shining in Belgium. It's the end of February and well, it's rather chilly, but yeah, a man has to do what a man has to do. So because this privet is starting to bud out all over the place, I really need to do one final thing, but before we do that, I just came back from the second-hand store and I bought a few pots. So this pot really looks like a nice cascade pot. It's not top quality, of course. Cost me €1, has no hole, but yeah. And then I bought this big pot, which does not look much like a bonsai pot, but I think that once you put a bonsai in it, it's gonna be great. Cost me 50 cents. Again, has no hole. And then this one cost me 80 cents and again has no hole. So I need to drill holes in these pots, but to do that I have, well, I already bought a little ceramic drill. And if you want to know how you do that, well, I suggest that you visit another channel. Well, it's not another bonsai channel, it's another bonsai channel. It's the channel of Gav, and he's explaining how he does this. So always nice to see some explanation and learn something new. So these pots, well, I will use them, but not today. Today is about something completely different. It's about a privet that I have been trying to fuse for many years, and it's starting to look okay, except for one thing. I need a back branch. But with privet that's not really complicated, because when you have a privet and you take cuttings, you get this after a year or two, and as you see, this is all new green foliage, so that's looking quite okay. Now this tree, this fusion privet, is well featured in quite a lot of videos, and he's doing really well. And he went into this bonsai pot a year ago and well, everything seemed to work, except for two things. I think I need something here in the back, and I had this as a front, but I think it has to be a little more like that. So yeah, I think I might just get it out of the pot, comb the roots out just gently, because I don't want to disturb too much, and then put it in this pot, which is just a tad deeper, and well, the width is almost the same, is not as long, and it's a little bit more elegant. This pot is more for a pine, and that's also interesting because I bought a couple of pines that I might put in a classic rectangular dark brown pot in the coming weeks. So let's do that. The first job will of course be getting this tree out of the pot, and I don't think that it's root bound, but you never know with these privets. Oh my god. Well, that's a consistent root mat. Yeah, well, can't complain. So that means that I will have to rake this out, and if I remember correctly, the trees are on what I called a fusion plate, which is just a piece of plastic with holes, and the cuttings that I used are growing through this hole. And because they are constricted in that hole, they start to create roots above, and so you get a extremely flat root base. But I think there's still quite some work to do on this root base before I really get a good radial root base. You see, for example, this is not good at all. I didn't think that I would need scissors to work on that root base, but maybe I should. At least remove one or two of these bad roots. But yeah, in this stage I really want the roots to grow out, and maybe by combing I can weaken the bad roots a little bit, which is also good. So I don't think I want to bare root this tree, because I just want a whole lot of growth. But I think this is starting to look good. Now the pot that I'm going to use is a little less wide, so I will have to get some of the stuff off the edges and of every side, and I will probably have to cut some of the stuff away. Didn't expect as much roots as that, but cannot complain about that. I'm just going to use my tweezers as a root hook to loosen this all. And then I'll cut away the big root mat at the bottom, and we'll be ready for the repot. So I combed out the roots, and well, I'm quite happy with most of them, except for this portion here. These ones are all going in a very bad direction. So I'll remove a few of these and hope that I get some new ones in a better spot. But I must be a little careful because, well, these are all cuttings and don't want to get all the roots of one cutting. But overall I must say that this looks quite okay. Here again, not 100% great. Few roots are really nice, a few are not. So I just remove one or two lesser roots. Okay, and then I'll remove the root mat at the bottom, because there's absolutely no use in combing everything out when you have roots that are way too long. You will never get them back in the pot, and you don't want them back in the pot, by the way. So the root mat can be removed. These privets are really strong growers. It's really nice material to work with. Small leaves, not too demanding. Just one thing, when you have privet deadwood, it's not easy to keep it because it rots. It's very soft wood. Okay. So that's done. Now the next step will be adding a back branch. Of course, the fun thing with fusion is that you can do whatever you want as far as the creation of a tree is concerned. So I had this as a front, which is, I think, a reasonable front. This is also good, this is also good, so it doesn't matter too much. I think somewhere here for the camera will be nice. Now I have this branch that will become a side branch, which is looking really nice. I have to select two of these, but I will. Eventually, this spring, I think I'm gonna remove this one and then cut back this one. You know what, I'm gonna do that right now, so let's get rid of that. I have two strong buds here, so let's give these guys a chance to open. So that was easy. And then something in the back. But you see, I have a branch here, main branch, and a branch here, so I'd like to have this branch at a height somewhere between these two and in the back, and then I can open it up to fill up the back and maybe fill up a little bit of the side. So really in the back somewhere here. So I can position this little cutting. Maybe I'll get it out of the pot first. I did that this morning, it was growing. And then see at what height I should plant it. So I have a whole lot of roots here, a whole lot of roots there. So, well, it doesn't really matter because I can select buds now, cut back up to that point, and then my branch will start forming. So now this is an important moment, obviously. So here in the back, okay, I'm gonna get a little piece of wire. So, well, that's not a little piece of wire, that's a big piece of electrical wire, which is very strong. So you can see what this branch would do in the back. Would fill up very nicely the back portion, and would also make a little bit of foliage here possible. So it should come somewhere here. Let's turn this, and then we can see that if I want these roots, excuse me, to grow happily, it should come like this, and then up to this point, and here I can create my branch. So I'll have to make a little hook here to be sure that my base is well fixed. Bring my wire around the tree. Get this as tight as I possibly can. And now work my way up to the point, and I have to, of course, take the movement of all the little twigs in consideration. That's a good spot because I had a little gap here. So here, and I think I have room for a final loop. That's not bad. Like so. That fixes the whole thing. The wire could have been a little longer. Now the question is, can I wire this and make a bend? Well, therefore I'm going to need a longer wire, so I'm going to get another one. Okay, same thing. A loop. This one is, well, a whole lot longer, and it's trying to poke me in the eye, which is not good. Okay. And I'm just going to go between these first loops. Maybe I'll crush a little bit of the new growth, but I don't think it really matters because, well, you know, it's privets. So let's see from the front. So I said that I wanted a branch here. Now, if I can, with the last loop, get this branch here without breaking it, and then that's going to be the tricky part. Well, if it breaks, it's not a big deal. I have a whole lot of buds, but making the branch would be even nicer. Like so. Well, that's giving me the beginning of that branch. Now I need to get this thing in the pot. See, so I have the back branch here. Now, is the tension enough? Nah, not enough. No, I don't think so. And of course, well, the raffia that I used here is not allowing the new branch to grow, to fuse into the others. But what I intend to do, what I must do, is after the first flush of growth in the end of May, I will probably reduce everything and then rewire this with raffia. So that's going to be an important moment also. And now, of course, I must pot up this tree. So I have this really nice pot here. There's a huge drainage hole here, and then therefore I'm going to use a quite stable piece of drainage screen. And then the four little ones, well, I can just use this less strong mesh, but it really does the trick. So I'm going to put a base layer of soil in this. And when you do that and you don't wire your mesh in, it's always a good idea to keep your hands on your mesh, because otherwise it might move. But once that this base layer is there, well, nothing can happen. So now the tree must come in the pot. And I think that's maybe just a little bit too much substrate. So let's have a look at the right angle. It's too much. It's too much. Well, that's not a big problem, of course. Just put some back. I really didn't expect the roots to be that consistent. Okay. This is a little bit better. Let me see for the height. Yeah, well, that's gonna be okay. And then the front a little more like this. So I have a nice back branch here, side branch here, back branch there. And now I have to wiggle this tree in a little, and it will probably descend a little bit more. Up to here, that seems good. Let me see. Yeah, maybe so, like this. Okay, I like that. I'm going to pot this up, you know, adding the substrate, etc., etc. And then we'll be back for a final view. So potting up this tree is taking quite some time, and that's because I'm trying to reposition some of the roots in order to make a nice radial and balanced flaring root base. So you see, I'm just lifting some of these roots and then putting some substrate under it. So that takes time, but that's what will make a nice root base in the end. Oh, that noise is horrible. Because, you know, every time you get your tree out of its pot, you must improve your root base. It's not just a question of getting some of the longest roots off. You need to do more if you ever want to have a really quality bonsai. And a good quality bonsai, in my opinion, but not everyone thinks the same, is one with a nice flaring root base. And when you have roots all over the place coming out of your trunk, some people call that interesting because, well, they like it and they think that's interesting. So that's fine for me, of course. But it will always make your tree look a little bit like a error of nature, or a very young and immature tree. And yeah, well, I don't want that for my trees. I want a nice spreading root base with mature tree roots on the surface. And to get them on the surface, sometimes you must lift them a little. Sometimes you must push them down a little, and some roots, well, you just have to cut them off. So here I have to lift them a little. And I think I'm completely around it now. So now I can push them and they're in a good height. And of course I need to cover them with substrate and work that substrate in between the roots. Make sure they're well covered. And when they grow well, because these are all quite fine roots, these are just roots from cuttings. When they all grow well, and when the tree starts to fuse well, then I can select the best ones and I'll have a nice root base. So the tree is potted up now and ready to grow, I think. But to be on the safe side, I'm just going to apply some pieces of moss around the tree from my moss reserve. It's just the moss of all my trees that I get off in the fall, in the autumn, and then I put that in a tray. And it stays wet and happy and it grows. And then of course I don't have moss climbing up my trees in winter, because that's not that great, because it's always climbing up the bark and making the bark too wet, and then when you have a nice bark on a tree, well, it gets a little flaky and, well, it's not good. So I always get the moss off before the winter, and then I'll put it back on. So again a nice little root, but not radial, so I'll keep it here. Take a piece of moss on top of it, and this moss doesn't have to stay on these trees for very long, just the time that the soil needs to settle. Okay, almost done. Just one little piece over here and it will be fine. So this concludes the repotting of this privet fusion bonsai. So you're now looking at the front, well, almost something like that, you know. I'm very happy because now I have a branch here, a branch in the back, no bar branches at all. I think that the top is healthy, everything is starting to grow. It's really great. And I also have my big brown pot for my pine tree back, which is also great. Yeah, so for the future of this tree, well, I'm going to let it grow. End of May, it will probably get quite bushy. Then I'll cut everything back except for the branches that I want to keep, of course. This one, this one, this one, and then some branches in the top, and then let it grow out again. And then probably I'll get some new budding, some fusion, and so on and so on. And then in the fall, so it's a long time project. In the fall I'll have to get the raffia or the wires off of. Maybe I can do that before, I don't know. I'll have to see how it works. So this is the front, this is the side. It's not bad, just leaning a little bit forward. This is the back with the brand new branch here. Side branch, very happy with that. The other side and the front again. So that's nice, I think. It's only been a couple of years since I started this project. There's a series on that. It started with a few cuttings that big, and well, now that I know more about privet, it's really easy to take cuttings that long. They're very flexible, and I think that you can achieve something like this in 2 years, then wait until it fuses. That's probably another year or two, and then you're good to go. So this is almost instant bonsai, if something like that exists. So if you liked this video, please like, subscribe, share, etc. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.